All right, guys. Welcome to today's episode of the show. Today we have Micheal and Gillian joining me, and really looking forward to today's episode, guys. So I first connected with Micheal and Gillian at the beginning of this year, I think. Was it, guys?
Beginning of this year? Maybe late last year.
Yes, beginning of this year. Yeah, because we had you as a guest on our podcast.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, just before kind of the world went crazy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember it, and I loved coming on your show, so I had to return the favor. So guys, today we're going to be talking about quite a lot, actually. One huge thing we're going to be talking about is Micheal and Jill's kind of rapid growth. Like, we were talking about this beforehand. So definitely go over and check out their Instagram. I'll leave all the links in the description. But yeah, they've just had rapid growth over this year. And so we're going to be talking about that. But guys, if you kind of introduce yourself, like who you are, what you do, and then we'll dive into the content ultimately.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're Micheal and Jillian Leonard, and we're college sweethearts. So we met our last year of college, and right away we knew that we always wanted to start a business together. And we've had a couple of businesses before this. We had one where we were screen printing T-shirts, selling them. We did direct marketing for a while. And so we've tried all of these things, trying to figure out what it was that we felt like we were good at, where we could serve the greater purpose that we feel like we were called to do. And we just really, with what we're doing now, which is marketing for bigger corporations, just found a way to combine what we're really good at with my sales and marketing background and her branding and marketing background, and just create a business, and one that really has our values on it, which is serving, always doing right by people, and just creating content that adds value to people and builds a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, let's kick it off with that growth that you guys have seen this year. I mean, just like crazy, like especially since the time I came onto your podcast. I think when I checked before I jumped on Instagram, which is your main platform, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think you're now up to just past 10K, like loads of engagement on every single post. So kind of talk us through that journey to kind of get into that point now ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so we started this business last September, and we knew that we wanted Instagram to be our main platform because we just saw the potential there. And we had a lot of experience growing businesses through Instagram. And really, the last couple months have been super crazy for us. Just like every time we'd see it, we'd be like, oh my gosh, did you see this? Like, and we'd keep refreshing, and it was just insane. But it's funny because it exploded after probably 8 or 9 months of consistent posting, consistent engagement, just like massive action behind it. That was really why it all came to fruition. And we learned about, the different types of content that you can do on Instagram, and just different ways that you can attract more eyeballs to your account, and really how to get more people to your account. And it was, because I think back in December when we were posting 4 times a day, and then we backed off to 2 times a day. And we've been doing that since last September. And it wasn't until recently that we backed off to 1 time a day. But really what we've seen is that people crave human connection. Like, even though we are all, self-quarantining and we all live online now, we all still crave that human connection. And when we started out, we knew that one of the things that we wanted to focus on was relationship marketing, which goes against all of the old traditional styles of marketing, because all of, traditional marketing is cold calling and lots of sales and push. And we knew that to create those really lasting, really die-hard fans and community, it's through relationship building. It's not selling someone the second that they follow you. And it was just consistent, 9 months of that. And then it finally started to click, and it started to explode. And it was quite a journey. And I think that just offering the value, I think that what's one thing that Micheal talks about all the time is not being afraid to give away your best stuff, because you should always constantly be learning and growing. And I know I'm touching on a lot of things, but adding a ton of value and just treating people like they're human beings, like how you would want to be treated, is really some of the foundation for our growth on Instagram. Do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I mean, and it's just testing everything too. There's so many different kinds of content.
I was just going to come to that, Michael. I just wrote it down. I was like, so did you guys have to like test different posts and just like have that patience, because I think so often people like then one type of post, right, might get like a lot of traction, but then they don't test other posts, and so I was actually just coming to that.
Yeah, and so we would try, pictures of ourselves with short form caption, long form caption, but then we would try, quotes and tweets repurposed from Twitter and infographics and then carousels. And so we would video. So we would try everything, and we would kind of then try it in different variations on our profile to kind of see what people resonated with. And then within that, we would try different topics. So we noticed that people really loved when we talked about fear and when we talked about having patience when building a business, and failure. And so those were the top 3 things that people resonated with the most. And so then we were just able to piece together what people wanted us to talk about the most with what kind of content they resonated with the most. And that was able to create lots of shares and saves, which ultimately then just kind of builds a bigger community because it's bringing more people onto your platform.
Yeah. And I'll even add to that too. It's really when we had to really pay attention to the platform. We really had to pay attention to what was resonating, what was trending, and emulate that, but in our own way. So not necessarily copying, but seeing like, what do people like? Okay, they really like white quotes. They like to feel motivated. They like to feel inspired, because they're now clicking on something makes people feel motivated, like they've done something. So that's what we did. We gave the people what they wanted, but then we also studied the platform and really tuned into like, okay, what is Instagram qualifying something as high value content, and what are they going to use and put in front of more people, and what are they valuing? And they really tell you that whenever they have new features, they put more organic reach into those new features. So like just recently they added pinning comments, which we think is genius. We love it because it's going to encourage, higher quality engagement and higher quality comments and conversation, and not just spamming.
Definitely. So kind of like linking this into, because I know you guys are also huge on like time efficiency in that, like how was you able to create that much content per day for Instagram, and from like a time point of view? Because I think that might be, if it's a excuse people use or a reason, that's something that that comes up, right? Like, I just don't have the time, and so I'm wondering, like, was there a system you put in place, or what were some of the things you done there?
Oh, yeah.
So we definitely have a system. And while it works for us, obviously, like you said, it's kind of whatever works for you. But I mean, I guess the main purpose is to batch create it. So do obviously all of it at once rather than doing it every single day. And so what we would do is on Friday, we would plan all of the pictures in Planoly for the next week. So if we were posting 2 times a day or 4 times a day, and then on Saturday, we would write all of the captions for it. And that's when we would do all the captions, all of the hashtags and things like that. So that come the end of Saturday, everything from Sunday until that next Sunday was completely done. So we didn't have to worry about what we were going to write about. All we had to worry about doing was going and replying to comments, anybody who shared it, just kind of sending them a message saying thank you, and then engaging with other people in our community. Because honestly, that's another reason why it grew so quickly, is we just found people that were really cool people that we either really loved their content, or they're kind of just like a fellow kind of in our niche that we really liked and just kind of, had on a podcast or did an Instagram live with and really resonated. And so we just started to build a community of people that we really liked and enjoyed kind of having conversation with. And then it just sort of built out from there. And so I think that was another reason why it grew so quickly too.
Yeah, we could have never done it without forward planning. And there's this myth that I need to post whatever I feel like posting today, or whatever's inspiring me. And the thing about inspiration is that it hits at different times. You're never inspired all the time. So we really took advantage of that. And because I create the content, I'm more of the design and the aesthetic. So when I felt inspired, I would sit down and create as much content as I could. And we would schedule that in, because if you're trying to post every day, things come up. Sometimes you have meetings or something unexpected happens and then you don't post, or you sit and you're trying to write something and you're like, I have no idea. It takes you 3 hours and you're like, I'll just do it tomorrow. And then it gets pushed back. So it's really creating that habit in your life of being that efficient and planning that forward ahead, or that far ahead, because that is the only way that we could have done it, especially back when we were doing 4 times a day, which was for like 3 months we were doing that 4 times a day. And there is no way that we could have done it without forward planning. But that process just works for us. And so whatever works best for you, but for us, I take 1 day to create all of the content. And throughout the week, we keep like a shared Google Doc where Micheal will put in ideas, I'll put in ideas, and then I'll go in and pull from there. And then on Saturday, we'll write the captions, sometimes together, but a lot of times Micheal does the writing. And then that way we're good for the week. We just have to worry about posting, finding the relevant hashtags, and then engaging and doing the things that you need to do to actually move your business forward or build your Instagram.
Yeah, for sure. And so again, like, I don't know if this is something that's come up for you guys, is, again, if it's an excuse or a reason, people say to me, like, what tools do you use, Luke? And I'm like, well, I started off with like with video, I used Headliner. Now actually I use more like the Adobe suite. What kind of, do you guys have any recommended tools for people in terms of how you create your content for Instagram? And so I want to ask you that, but also on the point you mentioned about like the creating, like the time batching and that. So I do something similar. So for all like the Grow Together account, I pretty much do that, like the time batching. And then also, like you say, like in the week, I might get inspired to write a post. So I kind of do the two, so like on my Instagram, then I might, something might happen in my day, and so then I write a post on there, but then I also do like the time batching. So I do both, and for me, like that works. So like you say, it's what works for people. But yeah, tools.
Okay, so do you want to go or do you?
Sure. So as far as tools, we mainly use, if you're using one platform, so if you're just using Instagram, Planoly is really great because it'll let you auto post. It'll let you auto post with hashtags. So that's really, really nice. If you're using multiple platforms, we've started using Hootsuite actually, because that way you can have Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram, and I think pretty much anything, Snapchat too. You can have them all in one, and then you can just schedule every single one through there. It's not really, at the end of the day, we get this question a lot too. Like everyone wants to think like you either have to use this one tool and it'll make
$10,000.
It'll make it so much simpler. Like all of a sudden the content will create itself. But it's like, it's not really so much the tool. It's you just have to set aside time every single week. Like you have to create a habit, and then within a habit, long-term, a routine where every single Friday you plan the pictures, and every single Saturday at this time you do the content. So it's predictable. Because if you just leave stuff up to chance like that, other things happen. Like Jill was talking about earlier, something could come up. And really, you want to leave most of the time, especially if you're a business owner, in like lead generation, working with clients and things like that, stuff that's going to make you money. So it just makes it so much simpler to have something. You can use Planoly or Later or Hootsuite, or, I mean, again, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, so as far as scheduling apps, we've loved Planoly, but now we're using Hootsuite because it's more like Asana and Trello boards, because you can really see everything that's going on. It's all in one place, so you can keep all of your content really consistent. As far as apps tools that I love creating, I honestly love Canva. I'm totally self-taught. I just really dove into Canva and I let it teach me a lot about design. And then I also just threw myself into research. Like I'm reading a book about design right now, and I've taken courses, and I know a little bit of Illustrator, but I prefer Canva just because it's so user friendly and they just keep updating, and I really, really like it. But I love Canva. As far as editing your photos and making them look lighter. I love Lightroom. It's super easy to use. I also love Color Story for fonts. And then for the Twitter posts, I use Faded. And what I do with that, it's like such a Jimmy rigged way, but it works. I take a snapshot of the Twitter post, and then I go into Faded, and you can do different frames, and then you can center it so that it's a little bit more, it looks more proportioned, because if you don't, it'll be stretched and then it'll look weird. So those are the ones that we primarily use a lot. But Planoly is great if you're just wanting to focus on the grid and how your Instagram aesthetically looks, because you can see everything and they have a grid for you. And so you can kind of plan out making sure that everything is consistent with your brand. So yeah, those are the ones that we like the most, for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. I definitely love Canva as well. I'm starting to get a little bit more into Photoshop, but I'm not like yourself, like teaching myself kind of through that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Canva is awesome. In terms of, you mentioned there around kind of like getting into that habit and that routine. So then it comes like discipline, and so maybe like if we take the conversation there, like, do people like have that discipline to actually create that content, like, and set that time and set that schedule to do those things, like over the long term as well? Like, I think that's something that you guys have done amazingly well. Is then, it took you, was it 9 months to then start to build this traction? Like, we're all on our different journeys. So for some people it might take a year, 18 months, whatever it is. But like, you had that, like playing for like the long-term mentality almost, and like that discipline, so I don't know like your thoughts on that. And that's something that I am huge on and talk about. So yeah, I'm interested to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll give my opinion and then you can. One thing is that we knew that to get any kind of results, it takes massive action. And then it also takes more of, and we learned this from our previous business, falling in love with the journey and kind of forgetting about the outcome. And what I mean by that is, like, yes, you set goals and yes, you're pointing at something, but you have to really love the journey that you're on and love the work that you do, or it's just, you're going to be miserable the whole time. And then when you're miserable, you kind of repel the results. Why would they want to reward you and I know this sounds kind of out there, but why would the universe or God or whatever want to reward you for your bad attitude? And from our previous, jobs that we had in the past, because I was running marketing teams, I developed early on a content calendar, just because that was the only way to keep everything straight and keep everything focused. And you should have like a weekly calendar of things that you do. So for us, we record podcasts on a certain day. We do our other content, we do our blogs, and it's all scheduled on different days. So, and we just got in a rhythm where we know those are the things that we're doing on those days to make sure that we are staying consistent. Because who says that quote, if you don't have a plan, you can plan to fail? Benjamin Franklin, I think. So you always have to have a plan. It's funny, like, people think that you can just stumble upon success, but success is achieved daily in the little tiny disciplines every single day.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of just thought about what we want to do long term, so 5 years and 10 years, and the vanity metrics, like a lot of people like to call them, didn't really matter to us. We just, like, money is a tool at the end of the day, and so we would rather make a lot of money so that we could do a lot of cool things with it, because at the end of the day, someone's going to make the money. And so we just basically figured out what we want to be doing like 5 and 10 years. So if it's like we want to be speaking on stages of like 20 and 25,000 people, say, motivating and inspiring, say, like a Brendan Burchard or like a Gary Vee or something. Okay, well then let's reverse engineer what it looks like, what we have to be doing now to put us on the path to get there. And so if you know where you're going, then you can start to either reverse engineer backwards, or you can start from where you're at and work forwards now, knowing what your ultimate goal is. And then, because I feel like a lot of people don't know what they're supposed to be doing day to day, whether it's in like their personal growth journey or especially in business. And I feel like that comes down to is they don't know what their ultimate goal is, that it's not clearly defined enough. So they don't know on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis like what should I be doing in my business to be able to help me achieve that certain goal. Because I think ultimately we spend a lot of time worrying about things that really aren't going to get us closer to where it is that we want to get to.
Makes sense. And I mean, kind of on that point, it'd be good to kind of get your opinion on this. So I'm like talk about like just like starting that journey, right? Like starting that process, and so for me, like when I first, just using me like myself as an example, like when I first started this journey that I'm on, like personal growth in business, like I knew I wanted like run my own business and do all these things, but I didn't necessarily have, and I had like a vision, like very long term, like 20 years to kind of down the line, like very long term, but I didn't necessarily kind of have that, I suppose, like more like, I don't know if it's like shorter term goal or something, if that makes sense. And so I just like started like doing stuff ultimately to like figure kind of like that out. And so I'm obviously, based on what you just said there, I'm interested in like your take on that. I think, from my perspective, a lot of people kind of just don't start something because they feel like they need to have it all planned out. Like I completely get the mindset of having like that plan and completely agree with it. But then there's like that other side where people just kind of procrastinate on starting, and I think for me, it's like through starting, then I discover more about myself and more about, okay, so actually this is kind of the business I want to build, like Grow Together over the last 2 years has just evolved like completely, and so I'm just kind of interested in your thoughts on that.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like the start is the hardest. The thing that's first is always the hardest. So when you're writing like copy, the title is always the hardest thing to come up with. Like it's always the first thing. So I always like to tell people, okay, well, it's a long journey anyways. And like you said, you're thinking 20, 25 years. So then if it's a long journey, start with the most smallest possible step you could take. So like if the thing was, like I said, where it's like to speak on stages in front of 20 to 25,000 people. Well, what's like the smallest step that you could take today? Like you could read a book, like a couple of pages about like how to become a better speaker. You could just any of these things where it's really small. It's something that's very, very manageable, and it almost seems inconsequential. Like you've heard a lot of people talk about like atomic habits and stuff. It's like, don't go to the gym. Just put your sneakers out by the sofa. You don't even have to put them on. And then the next day, like put them on and then don't lace them. And then the next day, put them on and then lace them. And so it's making it so it's very, very manageable for people, because it's not so much how fast you get there. It's that you're more consistent over time. And so I always tell people, start with whatever seems the most manageable.
Yeah. Awesome. So we've got a question that's come in. And it says, do you guys have experience with Instagram automations? And do you use any growth hacks? I don't even like the word hacks, but anyway, I'll hand it over to you guys.
With Instagram
as far as automations, I'm assuming they're meaning like posting automatically.
So like,
yeah. So I think his name's Mon. Hopefully I said your name right. If you can let us know kind of what you mean by automations. I think from my kind of, if it's like posting automatically, I think the apps you recommended before probably do something like that. But I think if he means in terms of like other automation apps, like it goes back to what you mentioned in the first instance, like you've been able to build this community by being a human being and not by relying on automations, and so that that's my thoughts, like as soon as I seen that question.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, auto engagement. Okay. No, we do our own engagement.
Yeah.
And what we do is Michael actually came up with the system for us. We engage for 20. So if you wanted to start out, you could do every 2 hours for 20 minutes and like set a timer and just sit there and engage with accounts that you want to be associated with in your niche. So like Luke, for you would probably want to be commenting on Brendan Bouchard because you guys are in the same realm. Mm-hmm. And for us, it's more people who are into marketing and systems and things like that. And so what we do is we alternate hours because there's two of us. So Michael has the even numbers, I have the odd numbers. We set a timer. We have alarms on our phones. and they go off, at like 9, 11 and all of that. And then we engage for 20 minutes. And that's what's really been pivotal is high quality engagement. So engaging with our community, answering every single comment, and doing tons of engagement on, our hero accounts, because then when you drop down to see more, you come up as an example, as a suggestion. So if somebody follows Brendan Bouchard and you've been constantly commenting on his stuff and they drop down to see more like him, you would show up there. So we prefer to do tons of our own engagement and just leaving high quality comments. Nothing that's like, great post or I love this, but really like deep, meaningful comments so that it inspires a conversation. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, no, that was really good. And then as far as just growth hacks is, I mean, to get that kind of growth, you have to do a lot of engaging yourself. Like you just have to spend a lot of time on the platform. I mean, knowing what time to post is great, putting out really great content. And so then paying attention to trends. So kind of like how I was saying earlier, that we tried all different kinds of content. And so what we would do is we slowly got rid of the content that didn't work. And then we started doing more of the content that seemed to resonate, that got more shares and more saves and things like that. Because that's ultimately then what ends up getting you on the top of hashtag pages, where we're still getting likes on pictures that are months and months old.
A couple months
and
ago.
we go and look, and it's because we're in the top 15 still of a hashtag. But, I hadn't been paying attention because it's like a 2 or 3 month old post. So it's really all about just, paying attention to what people are resonating with, and then just also going out and engaging with people, like she said, that are in your space, that are, accounts that are really good, that are really big, because then ultimately you show up on that suggested for you page, and then people, automatically go check you out, especially now with pinned comments. If, you leave a really valuable content, say there's a discussion about personal growth, Luke, you go leave a comment that's really valuable that would like help somebody, and it ends up getting pinned on the top. Well, now everyone's going to go look at your profile because they're like, oh, he's a pinned comment. So then all of a sudden now, especially if you're in the right accounts that people are following, then they're going to follow you too, because you're in that same space. And obviously they see that, you have value to add.
Yeah. So I suppose the hack would be posting really high quality content and giving away what you know. And so like the thing is with our content, everything that we teach on there, we also teach in our programs, which a lot of people would be like, oh my gosh, don't give it away because then you don't have anything to sell. But the thing is, you should always be constantly growing. That's why personal growth is so important when it comes to entrepreneurship, because you're always going to be constantly learning new things and sharing new things with your perspective. And people are going to love you for that. And that's how you become an authority, is by sharing what you know and not alluding to it or holding back. Because what we see a lot of people do, and Michael has coined this term, he calls it vanilla content, where you're just posting, a quote or something insignificant, or you're like, hey, I made $100,000 in 6 months, hire me. So do you want to go into that a little bit?
It's just something like, you have to realize that the content has to be for your audience, especially if you're a business owner. So that's why, like, it should never be something where you don't plan your content, because you should have a list of the pain points that your potential client is dealing with, and that's what your content should be based on. So it really should never be a surprise. But you're always learning, always growing, and especially with things like marketing and things like that. Well, anytime a social media app changes something, or a new social media platform comes out or anything, marketing completely changes. So I think people worry about like giving away their best stuff too much, not realizing that in 6 months things could be completely different. And so like, it's like Gary Vee says, he says, I don't understand why people don't do that. You can find anything on YouTube, and you really can. So it's not like you're going to hold back something that someone can't find for free somewhere.
That's going to be,
revolutionary.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, and the thing about engagement groups too is that they're great for if you want to show support. Like if you have like a group of entrepreneurs and you guys are all supporting each other and you want to like each other's stuff, like great, that's awesome. But when you do engagement groups just to get likes or just to get comments or whatever, it's not your ideal client. And the problem is that it ruins your engagement. So that's like really the problem, because like, sure, you have those vanity metrics, but then you have this audience of people who don't care, who aren't your ideal client. And it's just like, you're not going to make money. You're not going to be a successful business with a following of people who don't care. So, I mean, that's why we would not recommend them.
Okay.
But if you find like Facebook groups or Reddit groups or people where you guys are supporting each other, which like, yeah, we have a ton of friends that we all support each other. And it's like super fun when their stuff pops up. We're like, oh, we got to like it and comment it, because that's like more camaraderie and community of Instagram, instead of trying to like build this fake profile, but it doesn't convert. So then what's even the point?
100%. Two things to pick upon that you mentioned there. One was around with the engagement kind of time thing you do. So every 2 hours, 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that works for you? And so like that's why you do that? Or so another idea that I had, kind of going back to what in terms of how you guys create your content, in terms of like time batching, so people could maybe set like in the evening like a longer period of time to engage, or do you find like shorter periods of time every so often would work better because you're seeing new content? Like I don't know, just something that came to mind.
I mean, I guess it's ultimately up to the person. I feel like most people have their phones on them and go on them enough, like every 2 hours, to be able to like do some sort. Plus, then it's pulling people back to you throughout the day rather than just one single time. That's why I personally like doing it that way. But I understand a lot of people are like, I can't do that you can't be at work and every 2 hours just like pull your phone out and be like, hey, what's up? So I mean, it just ultimately, so what it came down to is we started to see a commonality of people who were growing really, really fast on Instagram. I mean, and like growth that makes ours look like nothing, like 100,000 people in 8 months. 30K in 90 days. And I mean, I started to look at the commonalities, and one of the main ones is they spent a lot of time on the platform, just building community, engaging with other people, leaving valuable posts or valuable comments, ending up on the suggested for you page, people being pulled from other people's pages, just seeing, that their design and their copy was really good. And so it just came down to, that's the best hack, I guess, if you want to call it that, to grow really quickly, is to just put out great content and then reciprocate like you want people to. And the more that you can do of those two things, probably the quicker you'll grow.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and I mean, if you're first starting out, you could just do in the morning and at night for 20 minutes each time. You set a timer, you do 20 minutes of high quality engagement, and then you can work up to it. Like, obviously we had to work up to that. And especially me, because I'm like, no way, no thank you. But Michael's a machine and can just do it. But I had to work up to that. So I started with in the morning and in the evening for like 20 minutes. And then I added one in the middle of the day. And then that just worked out for us to be doing, odds and evens. Obviously, sometimes it doesn't happen every single day. If we have, calls with clients or meetings, or if I'm in a creative flow, I will do it later. But for the most part, that's what's worked the best for us. Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. And I wanted to ask about, like, with the hashtags, what sort of research, or how do you guys do that?
Yeah. So I used to do them manually, and that's a nightmare. Like, if anybody's ever done it manually. We use it's an app called Flick. So FLICK. So it's app.flick.tech. And it's not an actual app on your phone, so you'll have to use it from a desktop. But what it does is it will track all the hashtags that you use when you connect your Instagram profile. And as you use hashtags more and more, it'll let you know whether it's a hashtag you should be using, whether you're ranking on it. It'll give you all of the metrics as far as a hashtag, like how many total posts there's been, how many times it's used a day, the competition on it, like your potential reach if you use it. So then it starts to build almost like a database for you of what sort of hashtags make sense for you to use. And then when you type a hashtag in the search too, it'll give you 20 other options of like related hashtags. So if you put, like I put in marketing, it'll give me like marketing tips, content marketing, relationship marketing. So it'll give you suggested ideas too. You can do it. I think it's a 14-day free trial. And then afterwards, if you want the analytics package along with it, think it's like $31 US. I don't know what that would translate to in different countries, but that's about what we pay. But it's very, very worth it because I'm all about saving time. Anything that can save time that you can afford as a business owner. And for $31 a month for you to be able to save that kind of time just makes sense.
Yeah.
And investing like where you can, if you can invest in apps or services that are going to give you some of your time back so that you can be focusing on for you booking more guests or getting sponsorships or finding clients or, making pitches or whatever that is. Any of the apps that really help you get some of your time back are the best because then you can focus on the money-making activities and really start growing your business. That's the whole point of, automation and posting and batch creating and everything like that.
Awesome. Amazing. Guys, it's been, do you have anything to add?
Oh, I was going to say, so I saw what he said over there. So, so as an owner, there are situations where auto engagement groups can help you. So auto engagement groups, so if you're thinking of like Telegram and things like that, are predominantly used by bloggers. So if, say, you were in the industry like we're in, where it's health and beauty, so it's like skincare, cosmetics, things like that, doing engagement groups actually wouldn't be the worst idea in the world because you're now engaging with bloggers and things like that. And so they're plugging you into their community, which is communities of other bloggers. So if you have a product, I guess, that makes sense and you know that people on those engagement platforms are predominantly, say, bloggers, and you're a blogger and you're trying to get into that network, just know Instagram's algorithm knows when you use that. So you are kind of a little bit playing with fire, but there are times where it could definitely make sense. If you're in an engagement group with a particular type of, occupation or entrepreneur or something like that makes sense for what you're selling, especially if it's a low ticket item on scale. So if it's like you're a cosmetic brand that sells lipstick and you're in the engagement groups with bloggers, well, it's, a $10, $20 item. That's a very low risk. If you're able to market to a ton of people, more people will buy that, obviously, because it's a very low ticket type of item.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, guys, it's been amazing having you on today. Before we wrap up, obviously you guys have just rebranded in that. So I want to give you the opportunity to kind of share more about that and where people can find you online if they want to learn more about what you guys do.
Yeah.
So we are now working predominantly with health and beauty companies, bigger companies, SMB, so small to medium businesses, with their content marketing. And so all about creating content like we were kind of talking about that impacts on a bigger scale, that's able to convert to more leads and ultimately more buyers. If people want to find us now, our old page, Live Grit Grace, is just our name now. That's more of a community page. That'll be a lot of personal growth and uplifting. But if you want to find our business page, it's called The Market Vibe. And so you can find us on all social media platforms on there. And so we do marketing for bigger companies now, and we're super excited about it. Just really felt called to kind of shift our business in that direction. Yeah, to actually really niche down, because before we were covering everything, and we know that our strengths are in marketing and strategic marketing specifically. So we decided to just niche and go for it. But if you guys come and follow us, we do have a freebie for you guys. We've put all of our best Instagram information into some of the 5 best tips. So if you guys want that, we're going to give that to your community. You guys can just DM us and we'll shoot it over to you. But thank you so much for having us. This has been really, really fun. So we are so grateful for your time.
No, thank you. So guys, I will put everything, links in that. If you're watching on YouTube, and also if you're listening on the podcast, I will put everything in the description and show notes and that. So if you're watching on Facebook and wherever else we are live, then that's how we do things here. Kind of go live and then take the audio and create a podcast from that. But then head on over to the podcast. I'll make sure the links are kind of there so you guys can connect with Micheal and Gillian and that. But guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
No worries. So guys, I will be back next week with another awesome guest as we talk about personal growth, entrepreneurship, business, and help you guys to grow. So have a great week. Talk to you soon.